Received a text and picture saying my husband was at a hotel with his ex while I'm pregnant. My husband, who is 28 years old, and I, at 25, have been married for a short but blissful 7 months. The time has flown by in a whirlwind of love, mutual support, and the building of a life together. With each passing day, our bond has grown deeper, strengthened by shared dreams, whispered hopes, and the exciting prospect of welcoming our first child into the world. At 35 weeks pregnant, I am in the final stretch of this incredible journey, and the anticipation fills every corner of our lives. He has been my rock, my confidant, and my unwavering partner through every high and low. Throughout the pregnancy, he has shown nothing but patience, tenderness, and a devotion that leaves me in awe. From late-night cravings to early morning sickness, he has been there, holding my hair, rubbing my back, or making me laugh when the weight of it all seemed too much. He takes on every challenge with a quiet resilience that reminds me why I fell in love with him. It's not just about the big gestures, although those are wonderful, it's the little things he does. The way he places his hand protectively on my belly as if shielding both me and our unborn baby. The way he hums to the baby before bedtime, pressing his lips gently against my rounded stomach. It feels like nothing could ever shake the solid foundation we've built together. But then, a week ago, my world trembled. It was an ordinary afternoon, the kind where the baby's kicks were my only distraction from a book I had barely started reading. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at the screen, expecting a mundane notification or a friendly check-in. Instead, it was an anonymous message. No name, no preamble, just words that punched the air from my lungs. This person claimed to have seen my husband, the man who had vowed to be by my side through thick and thin, in the company of his ex. The details were chillingly specific: a parking lot, a location I recognized, and a date and time that aligned with the night he had told me he was at class. Attached to the message was a picture. I remember my fingers trembling as I opened it, my breath catching in my throat. It was blurry, the figures in the frame turned away from the camera. The man's frame, his posture, it was uncanny. It could be my husband, but then again, it could be anyone. The lighting was poor, the angle deceptive, and yet my heart thudded with uncertainty. The woman beside him had hair that matched his ex's. The ex who, despite being out of our lives, had left a shadow neither of us liked to talk about. For a long moment, I sat there, staring at the screen as if willing it to change, to offer more clarity. My logical mind tried to dismiss it. There was nothing concrete here, just a snapshot that could easily be misinterpreted. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Why would someone go out of their way to send such a message? Why now? My husband had told me he was at class that evening. It wasn't unusual. He was in the final year of an evening master's degree program, juggling his career, studies, and impending fatherhood with remarkable grace. The hotel in question was only a 10-minute drive from where his classes were held, adding another layer of unease. As much as I wanted to brush it off, to chalk it up to a cruel joke or a case of mistaken identity, the image lingered in my mind. I tried to rationalize it, running through every possible explanation. But with each thought, my heart tightened. Could it be him? Could there be any truth to this? Or was it someone's twisted attempt to sow discord in our happiness? On that specific evening, he had told me he was attending his regular class, a routine part of his demanding schedule. My husband is in the final year of his evening master's degree program, a monumental commitment on top of an already taxing full-time job. His dedication to his studies has always impressed me, even if it occasionally meant missing out on dinners or evenings spent together. I know how much he's sacrificed for our future, for us. That's why the mere thought of him being anywhere else, let alone at a hotel with his ex, felt surreal, like trying to fit together the jagged edges of a broken puzzle that refuses to make sense. The location mentioned in the anonymous message was a hotel, and it was alarmingly close, only a 10-minute drive from where his classes are held. The proximity gnawed at me, a small but persistent thorn of doubt. It was too convenient, too perfectly placed to be dismissed outright. And yet, My heart rebelled against the idea. This man, my husband, has built his life around proving his love for me in every possible way. How could the same man who held my hand through the nausea and fatigue of pregnancy be capable of such betrayal? It seemed unthinkable. I tried to force myself to see the bigger picture. Why would he risk everything? This is a man who cut ties with his own family who had been a toxic presence in his life just to protect our peace. I remember the sleepless nights we spent discussing it, weighing the emotional toll it would take against the necessity of preserving our relationship and future. He made that choice for us, for me. Beyond that, he has worked tirelessly to provide for our growing family. His job is demanding, draining, and yet he shoulders it with quiet strength. There are days he comes home utterly exhausted, but he never fails to greet me with a smile or offer to massage my swollen feet. He has thrown himself into preparing for fatherhood with a level of enthusiasm and care that melts my heart. Late at night, he reads parenting books aloud to me, his voice steady and full of hope for the kind of father he wants to be. Even during the most uncomfortable stages of pregnancy, when I felt unrecognizable in my own skin, he has made sure I never doubt how much he adores me. His love is tangible, etched in every cup of tea he's made when I couldn't keep anything else down, every whisper of encouragement when I felt overwhelmed, and every gentle touch when words weren't enough. He has made it his mission to ensure I feel cherished, safe, and deeply loved. Throwing all of that away for a fleeting moment with an ex who, no less, had caused significant strain in our relationship before just didn't align with the man I know him to be. His ex. Even the thought of her name sends a prickle of discomfort up my spine. She's crossed so many boundaries in the past, her actions clearly driven by a refusal to let go of what once was. There was a time when her meddling was a near constant source of stress for both of us. She would find ways to insert herself into our lives, whether through cryptic messages or indirect social media posts designed to provoke. Each attempt was met with firm boundaries from him. He chose me, chose us, every single time. Eventually, her efforts subsided, and we moved forward stronger than ever. Now, as I sit with this message, I can't help but wonder if this is another of her ploys. The timing, the details, it all feels too deliberate, as though crafted to shatter the trust we've built. I know she's capable of such manipulation. But there's a part of me that hesitates, a part that whispers, what if? What if it isn't her? What if there's truth buried somewhere in this murky situation? I feel like we've been in such a good place lately, closer than ever, really. He's been attentive, affectionate, and present in every way. We've been more connected, even intimate, despite the challenges of pregnancy. There's no sign, no moment where I've felt even a hint of distance from him. And yet, the details of that message refuse to leave my mind, their weight pulling me into a whirlwind of doubt and fear. I don't know what to think. My head tells me to trust him, to lean on the foundation we've built, but my heart wavers, caught in the grip of uncertainty. Could I be wrong about him? Could he have a side I've never seen before? Or is this a cruel game designed to destroy everything we've worked so hard to create? In the last few months, intimacy has been a constant thread in our relationship, even as the demands of pregnancy and his rigorous schedule have tested us in ways I never anticipated. Despite the changes in my body and the emotional highs and lows that often left me feeling unrecognizable, he never faltered in making me feel desired. His touch has always been tender, filled with a warmth that reassures me of his devotion. His gaze never lingers with anything but affection, and his words carry the weight of someone wholly invested in our shared life. There has never been a moment where I doubted his attraction to me, not in the way he kisses my forehead or the way his hand instinctively finds mine in the stillness of the night. It's that certainty that makes the message so jarring, so impossible to reconcile with the man I know. I've replayed the details of the message over and over in my mind like a cruel mantra, each repetition tightening the knot of unease in my chest. The hotel's proximity to where he said he was that evening stands out like a glaring red flag. The convenience of the location is undeniable. It's not far-fetched to think he could have gone there during a break in his class or before heading home. The thought is a splinter lodged deep in my thoughts, impossible to extract. Still, I knew I couldn't let it fester without seeking answers, even if I wasn't ready to confront him directly. My first instinct was to look through his phone, a boundary I never imagined I would cross. I've always respected his privacy, just as he's respected mine. But in that moment, the need to know the truth outweighed my hesitation. If he was hiding something, surely it would be their messages, calls, or some breadcrumb leading to a betrayal I was terrified to uncover. With trembling hands, I unlocked his phone one evening while he was in the shower. The guilt of my actions clawed at me even as I tried to rationalize them. I told myself I wasn't spying, I was seeking reassurance, clarity, something to anchor me amidst the storm of uncertainty. I scrolled through his messages first, scanning conversations with friends, classmates, and colleagues. Nothing stood out. There was no trace of anything suspicious. No secret messages, no out-of-place exchanges. It was all maddeningly ordinary. I moved on to his call logs, his emails, even his calendar. Still, nothing. No appointments at the hotel, no missed calls from unknown numbers. My heart began to lift, albeit cautiously. Maybe I had been wrong to doubt him. Maybe the message was just a cruel hoax after all. But then, in the depths of his messages, I found something that gave me pause, a conversation with a female colleague. Her tone was flirtatious, undeniably so, though subtle enough that it could have been passed off as friendly banter. She had sent him a message weeks ago, hinting at getting drinks together after work, accompanied by a winking emoji. My chest tightened as I read her words, the implications clear. But his response was what truly caught my attention. He had ignored her entirely. Not even a polite decline, just silence. In another message, she followed up with a casual compliment about his appearance during a meeting. Again, he didn't respond. It was as though he had drawn an invisible line she couldn't cross, refusing to engage in anything that might even appear inappropriate. A mixture of relief and guilt washed over me. He had done nothing wrong. If anything, he had gone out of his way to avoid any behavior that might hurt me. Yet, despite his spotless phone, the unease lingered. The message about the hotel felt too targeted, too specific to dismiss entirely. If it wasn't true, then who would go to such lengths to plant the seed of doubt? And why? Was it his ex, desperate to drive a wedge between us once again? Or was there something I was still missing, some piece of the puzzle hidden from view? I set his phone back down, my mind whirling with conflicting emotions. On one hand, I felt a deep sense of reassurance in his actions. His refusal to entertain his colleagues' advances spoke volumes about his loyalty. But on the other hand, the details of the anonymous message loomed like a shadow, refusing to be ignored. If I had found nothing incriminating on his phone, then what was I supposed to believe? Could it all be a misunderstanding, or was I simply grasping at straws to protect myself from the truth? The weight of it all pressed down on me, the love I felt for him warring with the uncertainty that had burrowed its way into my heart. I wanted to trust him, to hold on to the life we were building together, but the cracks in my certainty were widening. And as much as I longed to dismiss the message as nothing more than a malicious trick, the nagging question remained, what if I was wrong? The message weighed heavily on my mind, replaying in endless loops as I tried to decipher its implications. Every scenario I imagined seemed equally plausible and impossible. On one hand, it felt like the perfect storm orchestrated by his ex, the woman who had tried and failed to wedge herself into our lives before. Her previous attempts at meddling had been relentless and calculated, each one a test of our patience and resilience as a couple. I had always trusted him then, and he had never given me a reason not to. But this time felt different. The anonymity of the message, the blurry photo, the specific details, all of it had a sinister precision that felt too targeted to ignore. What if it was her? What if this was her way of striking back, of trying one last time to shake the foundation we had built together? The thought gave me some comfort. It was easier to believe in a bitter ex's machinations than to consider that the man I loved could betray me. But no matter how much I tried to convince myself that it was just another one of her schemes, the nagging doubt remained. What if she wasn't behind it? What if there was something I didn't know, something he was keeping from me? The fear of losing him gnawed at me. It wasn't just about losing a husband, it was about losing the future we had dreamed of together. The life we had planned, the baby who was soon to be in our arms. Everything felt like it was on the line. I wasn't ready to confront the possibility that the man who had been my anchor through every storm could have a side I had never seen before. The idea was too painful to fully comprehend, and yet, it lingered at the edges of my mind, a shadow that refused to be banished. I wanted to know the truth. Desperately. But I was also terrified of what that truth might hold. If he had done something, if the message wasn't a cruel trick but a glimpse into a reality I hadn't been prepared for, what would I do? Could I forgive him? Could I look at him the same way, knowing that he had betrayed not only me but also the life we were building together? My emotions swung wildly between anger, fear, and a longing for clarity. There were moments when I felt almost certain that he was innocent, that the love and dedication he had shown me could never coexist with the actions implied by that message. But there were also moments when doubt took hold, whispering insidious questions. What if you're wrong? What if there's something he's hiding? I found myself watching him more closely than ever, searching for signs, for clues, for anything that might confirm or dispel the doubts gnawing at me. But he was the same as always, attentive, loving, present. There was no distance, no hesitation in his affection. If he was hiding something, he was doing a masterful job of it. Or maybe, I thought with a pang of guilt, there was nothing to hide at all, and my suspicion was the real betrayal. Days turned into a blur as I wrestled with my thoughts, unable to shake the feeling that I was at a crossroads. I knew I couldn't live like this, trapped in a limbo of doubt and fear. I needed answers, no matter how terrifying they might be. But how could I approach him? How could I ask him about the message without revealing my own actions, my own invasion of his privacy? And even if I did confront him, how could I trust the answer he gave me? Would I believe him if he denied it? Would I even want to know if he confessed? Eventually, the weight of it all became too much to bear. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, his hand resting gently on my growing belly, I looked at him and realized I couldn't keep carrying this alone. The man sitting beside me was my husband, the father of my child, the person I had chosen to spend my life with. If I couldn't trust him enough to talk about this, then what was left of the relationship we had worked so hard to build? With a deep breath, I turned to him, my voice trembling as I spoke. "There's something I need to ask you," I began, my heart pounding in my chest. "It's been eating away at me, and I can't keep it to myself anymore." He looked at me with concern, his brow furrowing as he shifted to face me fully. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice steady and warm, the same voice that had comforted me through so many sleepless nights. I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. But then, I thought of our baby, of the life we were about to bring into the world. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about the family we were creating. I needed to know, for all of us. "I got a message," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "An anonymous message." It said, I trailed off, struggling to find the right words. "It said someone saw you with your ex. At a hotel." And there was a picture. For a moment, there was silence. His expression shifted from concern to something unreadable, his eyes searching mine as he processed my words. "And you think it's true?" he asked quietly, his tone not accusatory but heavy with emotion. "I don't know," I admitted, tears welling up in my eyes. "I don't want to believe it. But the details, they're hard to ignore." He took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving mine. "I don't know who sent that message," he said, his voice steady but tinged with frustration. "But I can promise you, I wasn't at that hotel. I was in class, like I told you. I don't know why someone would do this, but I swear to you, it's not true." His words hung in the air, filled with a sincerity that made my heart ache. I wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. But the doubt still lingered, a stubborn shadow that refused to be dismissed. Then who would send something like this? I asked, my voice breaking. Why would someone try to hurt us like this? He reached for my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. I don't know, he said again. But whoever it is, they don't get to win. They don't get to come between us. In that moment, as I looked into his eyes, I felt a flicker of the trust that had been shaken. Maybe it wasn't enough to banish the doubt entirely, but it was a start. And as we sat there together, hands entwined, I realized that whatever the truth might be, we would face it together. Because that's what love is, choosing each other, even in the face of fear, doubt, and the unknown.